Hello, and welcome to this live. Today, we're going to talk all about why most group programs and courses don't work and what you need to do to avoid that mistake. So, if you've ever thought, what if I build this and it doesn't work? I want you to know you are in the right place. So, if you're watching this live or on a replay, I'm really grateful you're here. And let's just dive right on in. No fluff. Let's get to the business, right? So, today we're talking all about why most programs, group programs, and courses actually fail. And more importantly, what you need to do so that you don't make that same mistake. Now, I forgot to go on Do Not Disturb, so let me go ahead and turn that on. Okay, great, right? So, before we go any further, let me say this very clearly. If you've dabbled in creating a digital product, a course, a program, and it didn't work, if you've watched other people from the sidelines for a while and you see them launch programs and they kind of fizzle out or don't get momentum, or if the idea of putting something out there makes you really, really nervous, that is okay. It doesn't mean that you cannot have a business. It just tells me that you're missing a foundational piece and you're missing the right starting point. So, what we're going to cover this live is for you. If you see yourself in any of the following situations, maybe you are sitting at your kids' activities and parents are asking you for tidbits and tips and all the things, and you can't quite figure out how to monetize it, or actually thinking about monetizing it scares you. And it scares you because you're like, I don't know what they're really getting from me, right? Maybe you've thought about creating a group coaching program or a course, but you really don't understand why people would pay you. In other words, you're kind of missing out on what the transformation is for the people who are going to buy from you. And then maybe you're afraid that in this process, your reputation will go down the drain. I know I was so worried about that for the longest time, right? Um, but also, maybe you're kind of fearful of taking the leap because you're fearful of building the wrong thing. Maybe you are afraid of like spending all your time building this huge thing and then no one buying it or even getting through it and having to start all over again. Because here is what no one in this online space is telling you. All of those fears are rational, real, and no one should be taking that away from you. Okay? Because what happens is most people end up going to town and trying to build something, right? Most people end up really starting to do things and they don't work. And the reason why they don't work is because people skip the foundation, right? It's you'll hear in this space, if you spend any time in this space, people talking about how, oh, you didn't have success because you weren't smart enough. You didn't have the knowledge. Oh, you didn't make it because you didn't want it bad enough. You weren't working hard enough to get it. All BS, right? That's not the problem. The problem is skipping the foundation. When you skip the foundation, you're like, oh, I have this idea. Let me go make content. Let me go build platforms, or let me go post on platforms. Let me get branding. Let me do all of these things that really aren't helping you build the course or program that you want to do. That's going to get your clients to a transformation, right? And so the most important question that you have to ask before you start anything is, what is the actual method that I take people through when they come and ask for my help? When I'm sitting at the cheer gym in the lobby and parents are asking for my help, I have an actual method I walk them through. I can sit down with any parent and extract their method in probably about an hour just by asking the right questions, right? They all tell me it's special, it's customized, it's unique to each individual person. But really deep down, when you put a method of how to extract that together, you end up building a method. And when you lack having the method you walk people through, when it's not clear, nothing else, no matter what you do, is going to work consistently for you. So let's talk about the common mistakes that I see constantly when people are trying to make this switch into either a group program, a course, a digital product, right? So mistake number one, They jump straight into content. What does that mean? That means people literally will go download our Trello board and immediately try to build out modules, videos, lessons, and all of those things. And what they're not asking when they start that process is, what problem do I solve? What is my step-by-step path out of it? And so what ends up happening is you end up with information overload. I'm just looking for a sheet of paper. I should have been more prepared, right? You end up with information overload. And so what I mean by that is that when you don't have this step-by-step path, you're just giving people information that they could go look off of YouTube for. You're not getting them to a transformation. So I'm going to draw this little arc right here. And I'm going to put 2 spots on it. And let me know if you guys can see that okay, right? Like we have A, we have A and B, right? A is where your person is starting out at. This is where they're beginning their journey. Means this is like the problem they're in, and you can probably very clearly describe that problem. B over here is the promised land. This is where they want to go. This is the transformation. People don't buy coaching or courses because they want to put something on a digital bookshelf. They buy it because they want a transformation. And what happens is when you have a clear method, right? When you get that clear method going, you end up with some pretty mild steps that people walk through to get over here to the B. Okay, now that's reverse for me and I'm having a really hard time if you can't tell. Okay, so you need to create a transformation. There's a transformational outcome, and our method helps them get there. And you do all of that before you start building modules, videos, or lessons. Mistake number 2. And I have friends who do this. I have clients who do this. I've been guilty of this. It's what I call overstuffing your program. I like to call this, you're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink into something, because if the more I give, the more valuable it becomes. If you can relate to that, let me know, right? And what we're trying to do here is, we don't want to create a million lessons and a million bonuses and a million ideas and a million steps. In our transformation, we need to take them on a clear path from where they are to where they want to go. I like to kind of make a little car here, right? Because we want the car to drive from here and down the road, right? And so when we actually throw everything in the kitchen sink into our courses, our programs, our digital products, when we give too many options, right? Like, what happens is your future clients get overwhelmed. They feel like they have a million choices and they're on information overload. And that leads to them not finishing your courses. You don't get consistent results. And that leads to then you feeling like your confidence is dropping and that you can't sell this anymore. More content does not necessarily mean more outcomes. It doesn't necessarily mean a higher price point. It doesn't necessarily mean that the more you give them, the more you can charge, or the more you give them, the more that they're going to have better results. That's just not true. Mistake number 3, random delivery. Now, for me, I am a former classroom teacher, and I know the power of delivery and what it can do to getting results, especially combined with the community. And when you have the power of delivery right, you gain so much more, and so do your clients. So most people design delivery based on vibes, convenience, or what they see someone else doing. Guilty. I've ran that one. My clients have done that. Our past clients have done that, right? Instead, the question you need to ask yourself is, what does my client need at each stage of this transformation? And when you know that, you can start to build delivery that's no longer feeling scattered. It's starting to be really good. You can start to map out milestones. You can start to map out activities. You can make sure that every lesson is pushing them into the outcome of the transformation. That's where it becomes extremely, extremely powerful. Okay? And so when we don't have this right, when we start mapping out what someone else does or anything else, we end up creating way more confusion for our potential clients, and that leads us to refund requests. It leads us to people coming in and needing a lot of help, and it leads us to not being able to deliver in a way that fits our life. And then we burn out and we get really tired. Mistake number 4, copying someone else's model. Look, if you've spent any time online, you know that there's a whole thing about going and funnel hacking and going through people's funnels and seeing what they're doing and all of those kinds of things. But here's the problem. This one's going to hurt you the very most, okay? And the reason why is because when you borrow someone else's model, you cannot carry your expertise and your authority through it. So when you borrow someone else's framework, when you borrow someone else's launch style, when you borrow someone else's structure, you're essentially copying someone else's business model. And they're like, here you go, signed, sealed, and delivered on your plate. And then you go, how do I sell it? How do I get people to buy into it? How do I get them a result, right? And then it feels forced, it feels misaligned, and you feel a little lost. And I can tell you, I've lived this one. I sat down with a coach at the very beginning. She was a wonderful coach, and she helped me map out my first program, right? But it felt borrowed. It was her ideas, it was her things. And it was really hard for me to feel the authority behind it in that moment. I needed a lot more experience for myself to feel bought into that methodology, right? And so when you start stealing someone else's frameworks, you kind of have the pieces, but not really, and that will also play into your client results. So here is what's going to change everything for you. A group program, a course, a digital product is only going to work if your signature methodology is clear. It's not the content, it's not the platform, it's not the price. It is the actual method that you walk people through. When you have a method, you become a category of one. When you have a method, you become known for this thing and this outcome. When you have a signature method, you are now unique and different from all of the other people who are doing the exact same for you. And your method is going to answer what problem you solve, what outcome you deliver, and how you get someone from steps A to B, right? And if you cannot explain that simply, you will not be able to get your clients' results consistently. If you can't explain that simply, your clients won't experience it. If you can't explain that clearly, your clients are going to feel lost. And when that happens, you begin to question everything. And it's why this is the foundational piece to anything that you build going forward, okay? So here's the order that you have to do this in. Method, delivery, assets. It's that simple. Method, delivery, assets, right? You don't want to put assets first. You don't want to put delivery first. You don't want to put content first. You have to design your signature methodology first. Once you have that, you can align the delivery components to what they need to make it through the method. Then you give them the support structures, the tools, the resources, the mindsets to actually get the results in delivery, okay? Everything else that you are going to build supports the method. It doesn't replace it. So your method is the actual backbone to your business. It's going to give you confidence, it's going to give you clarity, and it's going to give you repeatable results. And when you have a clear method, the way you deliver it becomes really super easy to put together. When you have a really clear method, the content talking about it, the content going into your programs, the worksheets all become simpler. And when you have a clear method, the ability to sell it again and again to create the revenue that you want to create becomes so much easier, so much cleaner, and so much softer. And this is why in my world, we always start with the signature method and extracting this method. We don't start with building funnels. We don't start with recording content. We don't start with launching anything. And the way we do this is we start by pulling the method out of your head onto paper, clearly, simply, and in your own words. And from there, we design everything else from that. Because once you have that, you get to stop second guessing, you get to stop overbuilding, you get to stop starting over. And everything from there builds on top of each other and works. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, this explains why my past attempts have felt messy. This is why I feel like I don't know where to go next. Then you need this first step. And if you want our help in extracting and structuring your method, that's exactly what we do in crafting your signature method. That's what it's for. It's designed for women just like you who have skills, who have experience, who need some clarity, who need some structure, who need some help extracting that so that they have a sellable method that they feel confident that's going to give them cash and clarity as well, right? There's no pressure, just a clear next step if this clicked. And you can click the link below this video and get access to all of the information about that. And next week, I'm going to show you how to turn exactly what you know into the clear method without overthinking, without starting from scratch. Okay? We're going to give you the method. So if this helped you, drop me a comment, send me a message. I do read them all. I do personally respond to them. And you are here for a reason, and I can't wait to support you on your journey. And I'll see you next week.